welcome back. My name is LastKnownMeal and today we're going to talk about Netflix The Witcher. These are the topics you requested a lot and we have some season 2 news, but first we have Tim Aslam, the costume designer for the season 1, finally talk about why he made Nilfgaardian Armor as it was and what does he think about that. This is what he said. I know that there is this big, elephant in the room. I know there was a lot of controversy about the Nilfgaardian Armor, for example, and the thing with the Nilfgaardian Armor is that a lot of gamers were kind of used to how Nilfgaardians looked like and what they were. Whereas we've said time and time again that this had nothing to do with the games, and in a way the season was almost an origin story for like everybody. It was not so much, this is from the very early books and it's almost before the characters that particularly the gamers know are actually formed into those characters. This is like their early story. I wouldn't really say gamers, because when you say like, the gamers this, gamers that, it's almost like the gamers were the only ones who were complaining about the armor, and yes, I know that this is their origin story. I know that Nilfgaard is not the Nilfgaard we got used to from the Witcher games, because they were actually just building up in the season 1. They were actually just, becoming an actual kingdom from this backwater tribe that they were before. But still, some of that armor could have been different to actually match that. He also later says, I think the thing with Nilfgaardian was that Lauren quite early on said to be that, because this sort of started him. Like, before Pavetta's betrothal, the Nilfgaardians are still sort of a backwater kind of nothing. It's not a strong state or anything, and suddenly, with Fringilla's help, it becomes this huge sort of menace, and the thing with the Nilfgaardians is that they were not supposed to be this elite, trained, perfectly clad army like the Cintrians are. Nobody knows where they've come from and how they've come there so quickly, because a lot of them are sort of fanatically brainwashed into joining this army. Yes, Fringilla did help, but you cannot only say that it was Fringilla. There is also another entity that actually made Nilfgaard what it is. The concepts we had like a week from pen and paper to setting the costumes to be made, because obviously I had to make like 250 sets to be shooting in less than 2 months from sort of zero, which 1 or 2 days delay, and those scenes and the locations were already set and we could not move those scenes. So it was like, damn, we have to have this on the ready, and I was like, guys, we need to have a sign off on this armor, what do you want? It was like, we don't want anything Eastern, we don't want anything traditional, we don't want a Renaissance armor, we don't want medieval armor, just black. You know what I mean? Just black? I mean, you cannot say to your costume designer just black. Hopefully it wasn't like this. Hopefully, when Tim Aslam came to Lauren to actually look at the armors he created, like the concepts, hopefully they had some discussion, because if it was only just black, it's not a good thing to say. If you are a director or someone in position, you must have a general idea what you want. But saying just black doesn't really explain anything. It doesn't explain their empire, it doesn't explain Nilfgaardians, it doesn't explain the universe, and that's not good. Because on a project of this scale, you must explain your vision. You need to have some sort of a, let's say, explanation why you did that or you did this, and it has to be functional. Yes, I know this is fantasy. You have magic, you have dragons. Why would we bother around armor? Because empires still have to protect their kingdom, they still have to attack, so their armor has to be functional. I mean, you have dragons in other series, in other universes, but the armor still has to be there. It still has to be functional in a sense. And honestly, majority of people were complaining mostly about Nilfgaardian armor. Tim Aslam did also other costumes for this show, and honestly, they were amazing. Also later, he continued to say this: it needs to be something never seen before. which in terms of armor is not an easy call. Armors have been around since 3,000-4,000 years ago in various forms, and just about everything has been seen before. But the thing is, with the Nilfgaardian armor, it had to be something weird. It's not about them fighting and being this protective, like full-on kind of brilliant armor. They're almost supernatural. It's like, how many of these people have come? From where? How is this even possible? Obviously, Fringilla has used her magic powers, but the armor itself needed to have an organic rather matter than a man-made look. It needed to be almost formed, grown, and that was the idea behind everything. It was very veiny and had reference to nature, to trees, the bark and moss and decaying stuff. Okay, so this I kinda understand. They were going with this decaying look, and from his perspective, it does make sense. But just from the design standpoint, it's not that scary. You know, it's not that supernatural in a sense. And I know they're trying to make them look like grunts. You know, this empire that just came out of nowhere, and now they're pillaging and murdering everyone. And yes, they were supposed to be scary, but it's not appealing. That's the thing. Like, the idea is there. I like what they were thinking about, but I think this armor definitely needed more revisions, and it would actually be good. Because right now, from what I've seen, it doesn't look like that was the final version. It doesn't look finished, that's the problem. And also, yes, Magic and Fringilla were there, but Fringilla is not the only one that actually made Nilfgaard what it is. There is also another figure that Tim kinda left out here, which I think is also important to say. And for the end, he said this. So that was what we were going for. They had to have this weird alien feel that wasn't like anything else around, and also struck horror into the people because it's like, what are these beings? Where are they coming from? So that was the main calling point, and I did some different designs, and Lauren signed off on the ones she liked. And again, I think you watch it as a whole, it works. If you watch it with the idea that these aren't the Nilfgaardians we know from the games, then obviously they're not, and they were not supposed to be, but you know, you can't please all the people all the time. Yes, that is true, it's impossible to please everyone, and you shouldn't. That is not the point here. The point is, when you have a universe with predefined lore, and you know the outlines of that universe, making something which stands out too much and kinda doesn't fit there is a misjudgment. I did a lot of work in this industry, and the idea behind an armor, you should also take into account if it's functional, believable, and even if it does look alien-like. Their idea behind making this armor, let's say Nilfgaardians are actually designing this armor, and they're going to say, okay, we need something scary, we need something that's we're gonna come up with this. It's not really believable, that's the problem. And when you say that these are not the Nilfgaardians from the games, yes, that's not the point. Every time, you shouldn't, like, yeah, the Nilfgaardian armor in the video games is great. It's good looking, it's well designed, but it's not only the games. Yes, people were comparing this armor to the games, but it's not only the games. You can make this armor look different, but this just wasn't it. In the end, we know that Tim Aslam is not coming back for Season 2 because he's working on Venom 2, and the costume designer for Season 2 is Lucinda Wright, who worked on Doctor Who, Jamestown, McGray films, etc, etc. And I am done talking about this armor. So the next thing we have are Season 2 news. Keep in mind, we have 2 new directors that were confirmed for the Season 2, and Alex Zakharov, who actually directed 3 episodes from the Season 1, is not coming back due to creative differences, which usually means a director wants one thing, the production wants something different, and that ends with a director usually leaving. And we don't know if they're going to change every single director, because also Mark Jobst, who directed episode 8 of the first season, is actually working on different things, and he's not coming back for Season 2. He is sad, he's not working on it, but it's basically he has other projects, and he cannot make time for this one, so yeah. We first got the news a while back that Steven Surick is scouting Scotland with the Witcher production team, and usually a director is going to go there from time to time to scout for good locations, and it seems he will be one of the directors for season 2. Now, the two new directors are Edward Bazalgette, who worked on The Last Kingdom, Doctor Who, and many other projects. He is also a BAFTA-nominated director. And the second one is Sarah O'Gorman, who worked on various TV series, mostly aired on BBC, and now working on Cursed TV series for Netflix on episode 9 and 10. Also, Lauren Schmidt, the showrunner, said this about season 2. All 3 characters are on the same timeline now. That's where we ended season 1. That's absolutely where we will pick up in season 2. The stories will be told in a much more linear fashion. They won't all be one story though. It's not like all 3 are together and happy all the time. But I do want to employ some different ways to look at time series. I think that there is a lot that we couldn't fit into season 1. There are different short stories that I would love to highlight and focus on. We may end up doing those in the future via flashback, for instance, but no, we won't have things happening across 100 years at the same time anymore, which is great. Because I didn't have problems following season 1, but I'm also someone who does know the story, so it's easy to follow, but people who know nothing had trouble, which I do understand. It was too fast sometimes and sometimes too slow. But pacing issues can be easily fixed in the second season and later seasons in general. Also, the books are following Ciri a lot, so it's understanding if you don't have Geralt in every episode of the season 2. This is not something Netflix did, but the books were written in that way, so expect a lot of focus on Ciri in the season 2. But hey, this is everything we have for this video. I will make an extensive video on season 2 and everything we know so far, so don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button to stay up to date. And also tell me down below what you think about this, and to join our growing community on Twitter and Discord. This is LKM signing out, and stay classy everyone. Bye bye.